Hey, Samer.
Hey, Jen.
What are you listening to this week? Welcome to What Are You Listening To This Week, the weekly podcast where we talk about our favorite songs. Some old, some new, all good. I'm Jenn Tully, and this week I'm joined again by Samer Abousalbi, co-host and co-founder of Super Awesome Mix. As always, this week's episode has some great songs, so be sure to give the playlist a listen and then tune into our conversation. So, let's get started. Samer, what are you listening to this week?
All right, well, I got 2 tracks this week, both new music, actually. So this is a week where I'm not, diving deep into the archives. The first one, though, is For the Love of Money by the Black Keys off of their most recent album. And I'm, just obsessed with this song. I'm obsessed with the album, to be honest. I've been listening to it over and over again ever since they dropped the single Wild Child. I was counting down the days until the whole album came out. So I didn't want to pick that one because it's that's an obvious pick. I'm I can do better.
You got to go a little deep track.
A little deep track, right, on the new album by Black Keys, in which I'm on repeat. But yes, For the Love of Money, my favorite, the reason this song in particular is on repeat is because I just love how bluesy this one is. Oh my gosh, it just, even from the opening tracks, but the whole thing just sounds really, really bluesy. You get the influence, and you get what they're all about in this single track. And I also just love the subject matter of the song. I love how it's sung, and one line in particular is just my favorite line here. It's from verse 2. So he says, "We got fools with riches getting fat on lies, nothing but trouble here in paradise." And I just love that. What a great little, contradictory statement there. We got nothing but trouble here in paradise.
Love. Well, and I'm with you. I think anything that Dan Auerbach touches is gold. Whether it's an album he's produced or it's Black Keys, love, love, love. And I'm with you. I think that this song is so great. I love the bluesy sort of ZZ Top feel that it kind of has. But then you get lasers. You get those crazy laser noises in the background, That was my note. I'm bluesy ZZ Top feel and lasers. But, knowing that they're both, that Dan and Patrick are both big Steve Miller fans, you could sort of hear it reminded me of Fly Like an Eagle, where you kind of get, this rock bluesy song, but then you kind of have the computer noises in the background that this reminded me of that as well.
Right. I like that comparison. Yeah. No, it's really funny. I never really listened to blues, and I always also had in my mind kind of a stereotypical sound of it. And then through many, many years, and certainly through this podcast, this one and my main one, Super Awesome Mix, I've started to appreciate again just that through line from blues to rock. And so I love bands like Black Keys and Blue Stones, who I've talked about on the other podcast, that just kind of really ride that line between the two. And it's you can hear how one progressed into the other all in a single track. And I think this one does that very well. So you get the modern elements of rock you're describing, but then just that really twangy guitar, bluesy, kind of even then you start to hear the jazz influence on blues, right? It's all in there, and I love that. It's really cool.
Love to, and I think the Black Keys do such a great job at capturing all of that. And I know when you were mentioning lyrics, I'm I wonder if we'll write the same one down. The line that struck me, for the same reason, because it's so contradictory. But I wrote down the line that says, "Bright, bright diamonds that shine like shame." I'm
Ooh.
Oh man, so great.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that. I hadn't paid attention to that one, but I love that too. Yeah. This whole song is great. I really like the picture that they're painting with it.
Me too. Good album, good song. The Black Keys hit it out of the park again. And speaking of hitting it out of the park, your second song delivers too. Tell me what your second pick was.
Yes. So Death Cab for Cutie's got a new album coming out, and oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So they released their first single off of it. This song is called Roman Candles. And so, of course, I jumped all over this the second that it was out. And it's teasingly only 2 minutes long, a little bit longer than 2 minutes, and I'm like, I need more of this. Like, it's so. I felt the same way with Wild Child being only like also about 2 minutes. I wonder if it's just because our attention spans are shrinking that all songs are just going to become 2 minutes each. But this is this is another one where I love the subject matter. I love like what he's singing here. I could honestly read the entire song because it's not very long, but the chorus of "I'm learning to let go of everything I tried to hold too long because they all explode like Roman candles." And I just think like that's such a powerful sentiment, right? Like everything is just about learning to like let go of things because there really is no holding on to anything, right? Like everything just kind of disappears or moves on. There's this whole thing of impermanence and the idea of meditation in a lot of religions. And so I think this is like a cool popish Death Cab for Cutie take on that subject matter. And I texted you about this before this recording with the music video. I hope you had a chance to watch it because the music video is also really alarming and glorious.
So good. You know what I wrote about the music video? I said it was like an episode of Jackass because they're like shooting off these fireworks and the extinguishers. And I'm like, what's going to go down here?
Oh my gosh. I know. And I'm like watching it and they're strapping on these, the gas masks onto all of the band members except for Ben. And I'm like, no, protect Ben. Why does he only get the goggles?
Right. He's the lead singer. Come on. We need him safe for the next album.
Right, exactly. Like all of them need to be safe. But his voice in particular, of course, like he's the sound of Death Cab. So yeah, I loved that music video, but I really, really like this song. And I think it just like, it kind of, I don't know. I think maybe the hiatus has been really good for them, and I'm so eager to see where they go with the rest of the album because this kind of reminds me of, I don't know, like maybe some of their earlier stuff. Like I hope it's all as loud and in your face and like energetic like this one. Maybe some Postal Service has like rubbed off on him in a way, like bringing in some of these crazy sounds and electronic distortions and all good stuff. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I love Death Cab for Cutie, and I, like you, was kind of bummed that this song was shorter, but then I was even more bummed when I learned I had to wait until September 16th for the new album the full album to drop. I believe it's called Asphalt Meadows. Is that right? I think it's called Asphalt Meadows. Yeah. And September 16th is when that album's coming out. And yeah, I will have it ready to go at midnight on September 15th because I'm so excited for new music from them.
Oh, me too. It's a good feeling. Well, cool. Well, how about I ask you, what have you been listening to?
Well, same as you. I've been into some new music, but I wouldn't be me likely if I didn't throw in an old track too. So I've got two songs this week as well. One is a new song and one is an older song. So my first song is the second new single actually from Maggie Rogers' upcoming album, which we don't have to wait as long for. Her new album Surrender is coming out on July 29th. So we've only got about 5 weeks until the rest of that album comes out. And I'm not sure if you are familiar with Maggie Rogers or if you've had a chance to listen to Heard It in a Past Life, which is her first album. She had a couple of EPs and she was with a band called Del Water Gap for a while. But just an amazing performer. Her voice I could listen to just all the time. She has a song called Color Song that she sings a cappella that's almost like a meditation. Her voice is just so beautiful and clear. And I just love the story of her. She was discovered by Pharrell Williams when she was at NYU at Tisch School. He came in to like critique one of the singer-songwriter classes. And a lot of people have seen the video now. It went viral because he was just blown away by her singing this song, Alaska. And at the end of it, he says, "I have like 0, notes for you," I think is the quote, but it's just awesome. Amazing. Yeah. When you see someone that's as prolific and as gifted as Pharrell Williams, discover this new artist and say such nice things, and to give no notes to this young woman that's just beginning in the business, for somebody that's been doing it for years. Pretty impressive. And so the stuff that she's released, That's Where I Am is the other single from this album. And they're a little bit more poppy or dancey, maybe a little more produced than the first album, but I'm still so here for it. I love it. Did you have a chance to listen to the song? What did you think?
I did, yes. It's funny. I started listening to it and I was like, this voice sounds really familiar to me. So I was listening to it on Spotify. So I clicked her name and it said, you liked, one song from this artist previously. And it was actually Falling Water, which I had played a lot in 2020, I remembered. And I was like, right, that makes sense because this is like a really depressing song. And those were the moods that I was feeling. It was like either just a lot of anger and angst or like just a lot of sadness. Like that was the full emotional spectrum that I had available to me in that year. But yeah, I was like, oh my God, her voice is great. What the other funny thing that happened is as I was listening to it, I didn't have my headphones on, so it was just playing through the speakers. And my girlfriend was in the room next to me, and she just like, 10 minutes later, something came out, and she's like, "Are you feeling okay? Like I heard you listening to some really sad music." I was like, I am. It's homework for this podcast. But yes, I really, really like her voice. I especially like the part in this song whenever like the drums cut out and it's only her voice. Like I love that in songs whenever like the instrumentation disappears and it's just the singer's voice. But B, it works really, really well here because she does just have beautiful vocals. So really nice pick.
Yeah, and I love the line in this one too, where she says, if you understand that a few years won't erase it, might die if you can't live just to taste it. I was like, that's pretty much sums up when you're really into somebody. And, I'm like, yeah, well done. I could not have said it better myself, Maggie. But yeah, awesome. She's great, and I'm so excited for this new album. She's also really great live. If you ever get a chance to go see her, she puts on a really fantastic show. She has like really cool style and dances really unique, and she's a fantastic artist. I'm so glad we have a new album coming from her. Then my second song that I had on repeat, I kicked it all the way back to 1983 for this one. But I chose a song called Overkill by Men at Work. Men at Work, obviously, Who Can It Be Now, Down Under, they're very well known for that. They're quintessential 80s. But this song to me, and I'll be so curious to hear if you agree or not, I feel like you could drop this song on the radio now and it still sounds as good as it did when I first heard it. Something like a Down Under or a Who Can It Be Now sounds a little bit dated to me, but Overkill never does. I just think that it's such a cool song, and I think that Colin Hay, who's the lead singer of Men at Work, has said that it was just all about what was happening to them as a band at the time. Like they were just really overwhelmed at this sudden fame of their first album, that had those hits on it, Down Under and Who Can It Be Now? And their world just changed overnight, And so this song was sort of the reflection of that time in their life. So it was interesting, we don't share our playlist that far in advance. Like we'll pick songs independently, but it seemed to me that For the Love of Money was sort of like Colin Hay's, like he was realizing all of the fears that he was worried about in Overkill came to pass in For the Love of Money, right? Like,
right.
All of the things he worried about corrupting him and the band in general. Like that's what it looks like if that would have happened if you listen to For the Love of Money. So I always think it's funny that there's this like strange through line whenever we pick songs.
Yeah, no kidding. Nothing but trouble here in paradise. I love that.
Yeah.
No, it's so cool. What's funny is that I started playing this song and I was like, wait, I know this song. And then I remembered that really my first introduction was the acoustic cover by Colin Hay of this track because It was featured in the show Scrubs. I believe in season 1, I forget which episode, but I have a very distinct memory of one of the episodes opening up with Colin Hay playing on a guitar, following the characters around until Dr. Cox smashes the guitar, turns around and grabs it. Which I really love because not to go on a Scrubs tangent, but I love how they set that up because it's not clear that that he's in the shot, but then with that character grabbing the guitar and smashing it, it's like he's actually there, right? And it's not just like it's not just the director imagining that there's a guitarist following you playing this song. But that was like my first introduction to that song. So I listened to this one. I was like, wait, I know this, but it sounds a little different than what I'm used to. And then I realized what had happened. So he has, as I'm sure you know, like an entire acoustic cover called Man at Work, I believe, of of this album, and I really liked it. I love the acoustic cover of it. I think I might pick that version more than this one, although I agree with you. You could play this on the radio today and people would love it. Like, it wouldn't have the same problem that like many other 80s tracks would.
Right. Like a strange,
like, oh my God. Right.
Like no random like synthesizer breakout that makes zero sense or
right, exactly.
Yeah, it's funny. I went back and forth about the acoustic version and this one, and I always go back to this one. And it's not because I don't have an aversion to acoustic versions of songs, but for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because I like the horns so much in this one, but yeah, love this song, always have, and it's one that I constantly go back to. So I'm so glad it was one that you were familiar with, even though it was the acoustic cover.
Yeah, good pick. I like it.
Thank you. Well, that wraps up another episode for us. And thanks so much, Samer, for sharing what you're listening to this week. Remember to check out Samer on the Super Awesome Mix podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday. And also follow the show on Instagram at Super Awesome Mix. And to our listeners, join us again next week to find your new favorite song.